welcome everyone. It's going to be another ranked episode with us random cricket fans. So in this episode we are going to talk about the top 5 nail-biting games in World Cup history. Now first of all, just World Cup history. We are not talking about ODIs in general. And secondly, we are talking about the 50-over World Cup, right? So we've chosen 5 matches from the World Cup history which happen to be nail-biting games, right? And we've specifically focused on the knockout games because there's a lot at stake when it comes to a knockout game. So in the past few World Cups, we've chosen top 5 entries. Of course, if you agree or if you disagree, you can let us know in the comment section. So we'll dive right into the list. So I have Dinuka and Jamil with me today. Hi guys. Right, so number 5, we've chosen a knockout match, a semi-final from 1996 World Cup. Of course, the most memorable 1996 World Cup semi-final is Sri Lanka versus India. The whole match being abandoned and the audience rioting and all of that, right? But because we give so much attention to that match, we are actually not giving enough attention, enough credit. So one of the most underrated ODIs ever played, I'd say, in the World Cup history. The other semi-final, Australia versus West Indies. In this match, Australia batted first and they lost like 4 wickets for 15 runs, and then Stuart Law and Michael Bevan developed the inning. They scored like 207, and then West Indies were like comfortably chasing that. They were like just 40 runs away. They were like 160 something for 3 wickets. They had like 7 wickets in hand with like 10 overs to go and just needing like 40 runs. And then came the spin wizard, Shane Warne, and then of course the middle order collapsed. And they ended
starting with Chandrapal.
Right. Chandrapal was the top scorer, 80, and his wicket was the beginning of the slide, a turning point. So after that, basically Australia happened to win the final in the last over, and of course, Sri Lankan captain Arjun Ranatunga said like we want Australia in the final. So like maybe Sri Lanka was happy that they got Australia, but of course West Indies lost the chance, and that was the last time West Indies actually made it to the knockout stage, the semi-final of 50-over World Cup, and that was absolutely a nail-biting game. And if you are a younger viewer and you haven't seen this match, you should definitely look it up on YouTube. And like knowing the result is still a nail-biter to watch it, right? What do you think, Jamil?
Yes, Giman, we should give the credit for that match because already we have, especially myself, if someone asks what is the greatest memory of 1996 World Cup in the knockouts, I would say India and Sri Lanka. But to be honest, that Australian cricket team that time, we should give credit for late Shane Warne because he completely turned the match, brought their victory
back into the game. Yes.
Yes, and also Gimana, I should say something. If Australia struggle in the first 1.5 hours in the one-day game, probably your team may lose in the
end result.
Because Australians' result, you cannot predict it.
A very unpredictable.
Very unpredictable team. Because sometimes they took. For me, it's always like Australians are like to work hard under pressure. They are strategy there. So I think it works in 1990. It worked in 1996 World Cup semi-final. So
and to be honest, West Indies also like lost it from their hand. They had the game in their hand, so it was their game to lose, right? Right. So we are moving to more of a recent memory as our number 4 entry. The next one is also a semi-final, 2015 semi-final, South Africa versus New Zealand. Now it was an absolute heartbreak for South Africa. I'd say this was the closest, one of the closest times that they've ever been to a World Cup. I think they were defending a total, and of course they ended up conceding the match to New Zealand because the middle order, first of all, McCallum had a fantastic start. And then the middle order cashed in really well, and they kept their nerve, especially Daniel Vittori and Grant Elliott and Corey Anderson played so well. And I watched this match live, and for one of the best memories I have as a cricket fan, but best memories as like I was sad for South Africa seeing them like breaking down and crying after the match. But again, such a nail-biting contest. Dinuka, your thoughts on this match?
Especially for me, it was mainly about again South Africa. They have this bad luck in the World Cups, but it was the peak of AB de Villiers, JB Dumini. That match was exactly for South Africa to win, but yet again it was played in Auckland. But again, still it was South Africa's match to win more than it's going to New Zealand, especially South Africa performing this better in outside of their country, right? In New Zealand, but then again, New Zealand just came in and it was a perfect match. I mean, it set the stage for the final, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean that final wasn't that competitive. It was a one-sided game, 2015. So I guess this was the peak point of that World Cup, right?
I want to add something in Manai. I think for me, South Africa was missing a bowler at that time, especially in bowling mode.
I think they sort of they had Philander. I think Philander was dropped for something.
Yes, Philander was dropped.
I think because of the whole color quota. Yes, they had to drop him.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of I think I don't know. It's a appropriate topic to talk. Gimanaya racism curse for me for all of the time. Why South Africa brilliant in rugby and they got every luckiest moment in the talking about the 2003 Rugby World Cup. They won by every knockout they won by one margin. And also penalties. They had luck.
But in cricket is the exact other way around.
Yes.
Something supernatural.
Something supernatural.
Right. Now moving on to number 3, a recent memory, the one before the last World Cup in 2019, another semi-final. This one is India versus New Zealand, right? So India was set to win the World Cup, at least make it to the final. Nobody expected them to lose the semi-final, and New Zealand didn't play that well. It was like a below par kind of a total 240, but because of the weather, India had to bat the next day, and the pitch started misbehaving, and I think Matt Henry bowled beautifully to got the first few wickets, and then we saw Dhoni and Jadeja building the inning, and it was a nail biter until Guptill got that run out and got rid of Dhoni, and that was the end of the road for India, right? So that was one of the other matches I watched live. Shamil, you remember this match?
Yes, I still remember this match, and if you are an Indian fan, I'm sorry, because I was also cheering for India and to win as an Asian, because that's the only Asian country to survive in still the knockouts. But should say something to say, Gimana, it was really heartbreaking to see after the match. Opposite the ground, there was
the Indian supporters, right?
The Old Trafford railway station.
They went to the trains, and really heartbreaking to see as a neighbor country person. So, but Gimana,
I think it was such a nail biter, although the match wasn't that close. It was a nail biter to see. Oh my God, is this it for India?
Yeah.
Because especially for me, it was when Dhoni was playing. Dhoni is known as a good finisher.
Yes.
Right. And even with Jadeja, Dhoni and Jadeja, right? Jadeja is known to rotate the strike, dance around the pitch, and he's a very cunning player at times, right? It was India's game to win, but then and also for me it was Trent Bowl's beginning. For me, right? It was where Trent Bowl started to figure out his place, where he is in the place, and apart from Henry, I mean, this was where for me Trent Bowl figured out where I should play and all.
Right. Okay, so we are moving to top 2 spots. Number 2, we've chosen a game now. For a while, I was thinking until our number 1 happened. To me, this was the best game, best ODI ever played. If not one of the best ODIs ever played. Another semi-final. 1999 South Africa versus Australia. Now this game was a tied game, right? And if you haven't seen it on YouTube, you should definitely, right after this video, you should go check it out, right? It was one of the best games ever played. Again, similar to the 1996 semi-final, Australia lost a couple of early wickets and they managed to get to 213 and 212, and South Africa was chasing 213, which they got pretty close, and it came down to 9 runs in the last over, right? And Damian Fleming was bowling and Lance Klusener was batting. Klusener was in a magical form in that World Cup, by the way, right? Superhuman. Then he hit 2 fours in the first 2 deliveries, and then they need just 1 run in the last 4 balls, whereas they failed to score that 1 run. He just smoked 2 fours in the first 2 balls, right? And of course, couldn't steal that 1 single, and that was the end of the road for South Africa. That was the closest they've been to a World Cup, right? How is your view on this, Samuel?
Heartbreaking, man. And nothing to say, one of the unluckiest team in the cricket, especially in the knockout games. I think I still remember one particular thing after dropping the catch of Steve Waugh, the Herschel Gibbs, and Steve Waugh just came to say to Herschel Gibbs,
You just dropped the World Cup.
Yes, you just dropped the
That was
World
in the
Cup.
Super 6 game,
Yes.
right? The one before. That was the last game to be played before the semi-final.
Yes. I think Herschel Gibbs took revenge from Australia after in 2006.
Chasing down that
Chasing
438
down
years.
yes.
Yeah.
But it was very unlucky as team.
Mhm.
But in the other hand, in the knockouts,
Mm.
if you want to lucky, you see Australian cricket.
Of
Yeah.
course, they know how to win, man.
Yes.
They know how to win. One thing is they know how to win knockouts.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Of course. So Australia, and that was the beginning of Australia's hat-trick World Cup wins, by the way,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
After that, after tying that game, they didn't lose another game for about until 2011,
Yeah.
Right.
India took it.
right? Pakistan won, and then they lost the quarterfinal to India, and they exited from the 2011 World Cup, right? So, which brings us to our number 1, the best thriller, the most nail-biting game. I feel privileged to have seen this match live. I would be telling my kids I saw this match live, right? I don't think we'll ever have anything like this. On top of the drama, on top of the thrill, it was a World Cup final, right? Of course, we are talking about the 2019 World Cup final. World Cup finals are normally not that. 2003 was so one. 1996 was so one-sided, Australia. 2003 was one-sided. 2007 was one-sided. 2011 somewhat of a contest. 2015 again one-sided. 2019 was an absolute nail-biter, right?
Yes.
So much drama, Ben Stokes chasing it down, and then the ball hitting the bat, and then going for 4, and now 6 runs being given, and Stokes getting the strike again, and Dharmasena making those controversial calls, and then super over being tied again, right, at the boundary count. So there was a lot of controversy, and on top of that, this was a World Cup final, and I still remember Ian Smith's commentary, right, saying England just won the World Cup by the barest of all margins, right, and absolute ecstasy for England, agony for New Zealand, right, and of course I was watching that, and that's I think I mentioned in the Sinhala podcast also. I was watching this before one of my law college exams, one of my papers. I risked my paper, right? I risked that exam to watch this match. I have no regrets. Right? It was a once in a lifetime thing. So, how was your memory watching this match?
Himanaya, to be honest, I was cheering for New Zealand, but I realized before the
I think except England, everyone else in the world was cheering for New Zealand at that time.
Yes, similar for 2020 Euro
Mm.
final as well. Gimana ya? I want to say, New Zealand, for me, it's always 2019 win World Cup winner. Still in my heart is New Zealand because they played in front of the English fans and they have play in English conditions, but really, I don't know, but because it's my opinion. How do you decide a World Cup champions by boundary?
Exactly. That was one of the most criticized decisions ever
Yes,
made, right?
And also the fact that Ben Stokes controversial
boundary.
Yes. So England may be the World Cup winners, but they suffered in 2023.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very bad.
It's very clear.
Yes.
Heavily.
Right. Dinuka, your thoughts?
For me, it was New Zealand's game to lose, right? Because the way Williamson was building up, throughout that whole World
World
Cup
Cup.
tournament, right? The way he was building up, and yes, it was in England home grounds, but then again, like you said, the whole world was almost cheering for New Zealand, right? And still there are forums dedicated saying that New Zealand won it, right?
Yes.
Right? But again, I mean, yeah, England, it was won by England, and we had to respect the rules of the game,
Yeah,
right?
yes, yeah.
For some, because that's how
New Zealand did respect the rules of the
Yep,
game.
yes,
Not
exactly.
a single tweet.
Yeah, it
criticizing,
was
right?
a very professional rivalry, and I mean, credit goes to the players and also part of the fan base as well, right? Because being such a it's like the pinnacle of the, and it was a final as well, right? Like you said, finals aren't very like, it's not, we don't see much
back-to-back
nail-biting.
losses in finals.
Yeah.
They lost the 2015 final also, right? So that was very impressive, and we should credit them for how they handled that loss, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So those were our picks for the top 5 nail biters in World Cup history, right? So if you have any other opinions, you think any other matches should be included here, if you think this order should be jumbled, of course, we are open for your opinion. We are also random cricket fans, just like you are, right? So we'd like to hear what you have to say. Comment section is yours. You guys can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and we will see you guys again in another episode with